Thank you for joining us tonight on The Experience. And coming up in this half hour, Lisa Condit from the Hanover Theater will be joining us. We'll be talking about all the great shows coming up this summer and this fall, too, because I can't believe it. It feels the summer's just whizzing by. It's about half over here. Now, somebody who is really, I'm sure, feeling that the summer is maybe either going too fast or maybe it isn't quite long enough is one of our great candidates who is out there, Scott Bove, Democrat running for sheriff. And Scott, this is the time when you are out, full out at all of the different events. I saw you over the weekend at Paulie's New Orleans Jazz Festival, as a matter of fact. I know you were at the Big Dipper, too.
Yeah, they had some great music over there and some great ice cream. I had started Saturday morning off in Gardner, knocking and dropping on houses at 7:30. Then we went to Worcester for 3 events, then down to Webster, and then down to Milford for a Portuguese festival. It was a full day. Well,
when you're running for Worcester County Sheriff, it is a big, big county.
Yeah, it is. It's geographically, it's the largest county that we have in the state. I found that out firsthand.
I bet. Now, what is that like? I mean, just in describing that day, where you're in Worcester, second largest city in New England, so obviously big population center, a big part of any campaign. But you're in Gardner. You're in other spots as well. Issues, the people the same, or different parts of the county worried about different things?
Well, it's funny. You travel the county, and the further you get away from the center of Worcester, you hit some of the small towns. Some people don't even realize that there is a sheriff. And being in the system for 27 years, I just think everyone is involved and knows my world and the jail world. When in reality, they don't the further you get away, which is interesting.
Well, I think the one thing that maybe people do kind of know in some of the smaller towns is that huge sheriff's vehicle that goes out, sort of that rolling command center or whatever that is. Is that something, though, that you would bring to the sheriff's department? Would you have more outreach maybe to make it a little better known?
Yeah, that command vehicle, it actually belongs to all of the cities and towns. So, if there's an emergency or something needed in any city or town, we will bring it, and then the local law enforcement officials have access to it. So it's a vehicle that's accessible to everybody within the county, the different departments.
But that, it shows up at fairs and things in some of the smaller towns. You go to the Hardwick Fair, and there it is, Hubbardston and places like that. But when you hit some of these towns and people don't really know what it is the sheriff's department does, is that something that you think you can help educate people with?
Well, and one of the biggest aspects of my campaign is the budgetary aspect. I had started in 1984, and the jail budget was $4 million. Currently, 27 years later, it's $42 million. Wow. So the basis of my campaign is, with the experience that I bring to the table, I'd like to see that budget reduced. The cost to house one inmate is $35,000 a year. We've got 1,200 inmates. The cost is staggering to run these facilities. So I think I can do it more efficiently and reduce the budget while enhancing public safety all at the same time.
How many of those inmates who are in the jail right now are here illegally?
Our population is about 1,200. We average about 10% of everyone that's identified as illegal, so it's over 10%. And that's one of the issues I talk about as I'm on the campaign trail, is if we can get those small-time offenders, nonviolent offenders, deported on the front end of that sentence. Someone breaks a window in Worcester and gets sentenced to a year in jail, it's costing the taxpayers $35,000 a year. I think, common sense approach to lowering that budget is to get rid of them on the front end of the sentence. And there's moving parts. You need to deal with the district attorney and some other groups. But if everyone's on the same page, if we were to get rid of the 100+ we have today, that again would save the taxpayers $3.5 million.
Yeah, and also, if it's 10% where the jail chronically has this problem with overcrowding, I suppose it would help there as well.
Yeah, if we were capable of getting rid of 100 or even 75 of the illegals on the front end of the sentence, we could potentially shut down a whole building, saving the heating costs, the cooling costs, the food costs, the medical costs, and whatnot, the staffing costs. So we could really, really reduce that budget if we get rid of some of these illegal aliens. And I'm working hard. That's one of my top priorities is to work with the different agencies to make sure we get that done.
Now, that doesn't seem to me to be really more of a Democrat or Republican issue. That just seems like a common sense issue.
Yeah, it is a common sense issue. And, it is. I think it's the right thing to do. They're not here. They're not here illegally. We should get rid of them, and I don't think the taxpayers should be bearing the brunt of their incarceration. If someone's in for murder, rape, and serious offenses, they should do as much time as they possibly can. But small-time offenders, misdemeanor offenses, we certainly shouldn't be paying $35,000 a year. I look at, what kind of college could you send your kid to for $35,000 a year? We certainly shouldn't be paying that in inmate costs when they don't belong to be here in the first place.
Following up on that, it seems as if one of the issues that I do read about quite a bit in the paper, and I think it certainly has been something of an issue in the campaign as well, is should inmates get paid? Should inmates be paying while they are incarcerated? Should they have, you know, $5 a day or whatever the case may be that they're paying? Just something. Yeah.
Well, currently we never have, as I'm sure. Sheriff, I never will pay an inmate to do work. I think they're incarcerated. They should be doing all of that stuff for nothing. As far as fees for inmates, if they come in and they have the means to pay, they certainly should be paying $5, $10. I would go as far to say, you know, they get medication. Our medication costs alone at the jail are over $1 million a year. They should be paying co-pays for their medical, for their dental, and everything else. I mean, it's truly, you know, $42 million. We need to defray the costs.
Right.
And that's one of my biggest issues I talk about, is cutting the cost to run that place. And I think the inmates should be responsible to pay if they can.
Now, how would you be able to determine if somebody should have that, I mean, can bear the brunt of that cost or not? I mean, because $5 a day doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't, but when you've got 1,200 inmates and you add it all up every day, what happens is they come in and they have canteen accounts where they can buy cosmetics and they can buy a variety of other things. And quite frankly, there are inmates that walk through the door with thousands of dollars that go on their canteen accounts. Now, obviously, there's some people that are indigent and homeless and they don't have any means to pay, and obviously you can't get blood out of a stone. But there are tremendous amounts of inmates that have a lot of money on their accounts.
Yeah, when I was reading some of the accounts in the paper, it seemed as if the argument against was that somehow it shifted the burden to the family or to the spouse, so that the family or the spouse would be paying that money instead of the inmate himself.
Well, I don't know how the money necessarily gets put on the inmate's account. Sometimes it is the family. So it potentially could. But, you know, there are people that, you know, probably 50% of the population don't have money on their books.
Right.
So obviously if they don't have money, you know, they can't pay it. But one thing we do is the work release program. Those inmates, every day that they work, they pay $10 towards their incarceration costs, which is nice. Last year alone with the work release program, I think we got from the inmates over $50,000 that helped defray the cost. And the work release program, I think it was almost $38,000 went into federal tax and state tax, so they're paying taxes in addition to the cost to.
And I got to tell you, I mean, I understand inflation and all, but how does the budget go from, what did you say, 1984 to be $4 million to $42 million today?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Everything's gone up. At the time, the general count every day was 300 to 350 inmates. Now it's
4 times,
1,200, and we were as high as 1,600 inmates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the cost of everything
part
goes
of
up.
that. Yeah, amazing. We're going to speak more about the sheriff's race and about what Scott Bove would do if elected sheriff. We're going to do that right here on the Hank Stolz Experience.